Boys, today we are reviewing a weapon type known as the auto rifle. Now I know, what the hell even is that? Well, turns out it's a weapon type that used to be extremely powerful. Way back in like year one of both Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, auto rifles were pretty supreme. Sure, some of you remember Uriel's gift. Back inside of Destiny 1, there was a time when Cyril's regime was like the deadliest weapon on the planet. And then there was like a small period there where Doctrine of Passing, which is a 900 round per minute auto rifle, was absolutely disgusting. Now I'm gonna level with you. We're not there yet, but I will say the changes to Arc Logic are very much noticeable. This auto rifle went from being pretty much absolute garbage to, you know what? This thing might be all right. Today, fellas, we are looking at the 600 adaptive auto rifle Arc Logic. This was actually one of the lectern weapons, and in the previous sandbox, it had a muzzle flash that almost gave me a seizure last season. I'm serious, guys. This muzzle flash, this is the gameplay of this auto rifle last season, and I tried, boys. We had a whole build and everything for this auto rifle. I really wanted to make a build here, but I was so concerned that a possible epileptic might be watching one of these videos that was like, no way in hell we can make this video. This muzzle flash is just too much. But Bungie here recently in Sandbox 2.7.0 actually went out of their way and tuned this weapon. Now, not many weapons got individually tuned. Like we saw the big ones, right? Recluse, Magnificent Howl. There's a couple other exotics that got changed, Xenophage. But for them to go out of their way and actually reduce the Arc Logic's Muzzle Blast had to tell me that I wasn't the only one feeling a little nauseous every time I use this thing. Now, first and foremost, this is the side-by-side comparison, and yeah, it's a noticeable difference, guys. But despite this difference, and despite that muzzle flash being toned down, does this make Arc Logic a contender inside of Destiny 2's meta? Turns out the main reason why I wanted to make a build for this thing was for one reason, and one reason only. It came with the Perk Overflow, which actually kicked up that magazine size all the way up to 114. I wanted to make this video so bad simply because I wanted to ask you guys, fellas, have you ever seen one this big? But that's a legit question. In terms of magazine size on our legendary weapons, I've seen some pretty big ones, but this has got to be one of the biggest ones I have ever seen. So if you're looking for just pure size in your auto rifle, Arc Logic with Overflow will allow you to lay on that trigger from sun up to sundown. And if you combine it with things like triple tap, or even if you went the other route and went rampage, ramping up that damage even more, it's a feisty option. And now with that muzzle blast being reduced, or muzzle flash, muzzle blast, one of those, the weapon is just a lot more manageable. Now that may not have been that big of a deal inside of PvE, but where it's the most noticeable is inside of PvP. Now I've got a few roles here inside of PvP. I got one that almost maxes out that range, moving target with tap the trigger. Not exactly the best role here. Tap the trigger's not bad, but again, it only gives you that increase in stability and accuracy on the initial trigger pull. Now it is nice in those situations as I'm like going into my sight, as I'm beginning to aim down sights. Tap the trigger is already taking effect. It lasts for a few shots, and then by the time I'm aiming down sights, well then moving target is now at work, which greatly increases that bullet magnetism. But honestly, guys, now that we've experienced Arc Logic in this sandbox, I think maxing out that range is the way to go. Like previously, tap the trigger was like the one thing, the one saving grace that was allowing me to use this auto rifle at least somewhat effectively. But now with that muzzle blast being toned down, honestly, guys, you can go moving target and rangefinder together, resulting in this weapon being overall way more consistent. And considering that in this sandbox, we got things like enhanced rifle loader, enhanced unflinching perks, you can even double stack those enhanced unflinching perks together. There's so many things aiding a potential auto rifle meta. We just gotta get the right auto rifle, man. The right one. And technically speaking, adaptive auto rifles have the best time to kill value amongst other auto rifles. Now that's not saying much, but 0.8 seconds is not bad. The only downside to auto rifles, at least in this archetype, it's very unforgiving, requiring non-crits. It also has a body shot TTK value of 1.3 seconds. Surprisingly, things like Steel Feather and other rapid fire auto rifles have only a slightly higher TTK value, but way more forgiving. I will say if you want to use Arc Logic in this sandbox though, it is way more manageable. And something that made a huge difference for me, I was originally trying to use it in its more stable form, steady rounds, arrowhead break. The weapon not only faced severe damage fall off by loading everything out, its stability boosting perks and ignoring my range perks, but it also just lost bullet magnetism to the point that when I was shooting at enemies, bullets just weren't connecting, which is why I suggest here loading everything out into range with your barrel perks, accuracy rounds, maybe even a range masterwork, moving target, as well as rangefinder. You do those things, guys. I'm not saying you're gonna reach a 0.8 second time to kill every single gunfight, but by God, you're gonna be close. I was very much impressed, guys, with this change here to Arc Logic, and for my auto rifle enthusiasts, especially for my guys that did farm for a god roll last season, this could be a very good option for you. Well, that is our review here, guys. Now, somebody asked me the other day, the perks here that are color coordinated, what does that mean? This is actually on LightGG. These are recommended perks, and they color coordinate them themselves. In the situation right here, I'm not sure what the tiers are. I don't think that one color is better than the next color. I think they're just combining certain colors together and stating which one has a lot of synergy. So just like I said, moving target and rangefinder together, moving target, tap the trigger together. Those were really nice. And then they take like the approach of like overflow and triple tap, overflow demolitionist, overflow and rampage, or even field prep. So something to just keep in mind. There is no method to this madness. I think it is a good feature to have, but there are some cases where you want to ignore this. Like subsistence is not necessarily chosen here, even though I think subsistence with rampage is always a good combination to go with. Although for sheer size, I mean, overflow pretty much trumps that of subsistence there. So just something to keep in mind, guys. I just wanted to clarify that. Let me know what you guys think, though. Have you used Arc Logic in this sandbox? Do you like the improvements? Do you even care? I know, man. It's hard putting down that spare rations and that mind benders. That Dust Rock Blue, baby, and Not Forgotten. Who cares about an auto rifle? But I will say this. It sure is sweet when you kill guys that are rocking the meta. I'm just saying, fellas. I'm not targeting you, but it sure is a good feeling when I'm rocking this Arc Logic and it's slapping. So try it out for yourselves. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.